Welcome back once again to part 4. That's welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, and welcome back to part 4, module 2, the web. So in this part, the topics that we're going to discover are as follows. We're going to look at defining information literacy or digital literacy. So you might be in a course where this content is being used to help you study for what's called the IC3, the International Computer Competency. That is 3 exams that tests your basic digital literacy on things like hardware and software, understanding those, on word processing, spreadsheets, databases, presentation software, and then finally things like security and living online, as they call it, or, being able to utilize the internet, if you will. We'll look at how search engines work. We'll look at search tool strategies and how to refine web searches so that we can get better data. And I'll give you some examples of those as we go through. So information literacy, how one finds, evaluates, uses, and communicates online information. So here's a great graphic, where we identify what we're looking for, we find it, we evaluate the content, we apply it, and then we acknowledge it in some way. So if we're shopping, we identify what we need, we find stores or e-commerce stores that offer it, we can evaluate the different stores for pricing, we can then apply by purchase, and then of course we might acknowledge our purchase by filling out a survey, for example, or acknowledge when we get the product that it is in fact what we need. So that's just a basic example, but of course this whole thing applies to finding and researching information on the web. Evaluating the information that's provided for legitimacy. Is this a website that's pro for this topic or con for this topic, for example? So we can navigate many sources of information, including the internet, massive online libraries, media sites. Today, folks, a lot fewer people read than watch. And what I mean by that is it used to be everybody read blogs. Now everybody is following vlogs. That's with a V, V-L-O-G-S. So those are video logs. Casey Neistat, if you look him up on YouTube, he's a great example. Logan Paul is another example. More of a shock jock type example of vlogging. Select the right tool for finding the information. There's not just Google, folks. There are other tools, and I'm going to introduce you to those in this section. Recognize that not all information is created equal, so we need to look at, as we said in the next thing, is the information misleading? Is it biased? Or is it maybe out of date? When was the information produced and published to the web? Is it kept up to date? Manage information to become a more knowledgeable decision maker. So where are we finding the information? How are we getting to it? Do we know if it's legit? So general search engines, when we look at this, we have all these different search engines. We have Bing, we have some search engine that's done through Internet Explorer, we have Google, we have Chrome as a browser, Firefox as a browser. Some of you might remember this, Netscape, Big O, which I'm pretty sure is Opera, and then Safari. So what happens so that a search engine compiles a database of information about web pages, and it is really that database that we're searching. When we go out and Google something, it's not taking time to go through the whole internet. It is searching a database based on our key search terms and returning websites that have content related to our search, and that's done through a database. What happens is that these browser companies utilize software called spiders or crawlers or bots, robots is what they're sometimes called, to build an index of terms and locations. So where is the data coming from? And of course, if you have a brand new website, you can actually steer Google and other browsers to go look at the website and crawl through your website to publish content so that you show up in search results, native search results. Of course, we can also pay, if we're a company, to make sure that we show up higher up. Or we can pay specific companies called SEO, search engine optimization companies, to make sure we show up on the first page of a search. If we're a chocolate company, we want Hershey's to show up on the first page. Or maybe Hershey's is such a standard brand now that we don't care. Who knows? When one enters a query, the search engine refers to its index, that's its list of pages, finds close answers, and then produces the results. So that's called a query. A query is a question of a database. We're asking a question, and that question is being asked by our search terms. It then ranks depending on things like relevance. As we see, a lot more companies are marketing, so sometimes we have to scroll down a little bit before we get to the native results for the internet versus the paid or advertised results for a web page or website. Okay. Now, additional search tools. So to find online information based on criteria you specify or selections. When we talk about search engines, let's be really clear that there's the global search engine like Google, but then there are sub search engines that are designed for specific content. I'll give you an example right here on the web, Blogorama. I use that. It's basically, it holds information in its database about blogs on topics, on who's doing the blogging, on the author, everything, just like a library did, so that we can go out and search for a specific blog that we want to read. Okay. Now, search boxes are not just for searching the internet, they're also for searching web pages or websites. I've given an example up here, Central Oregon Community College. When I go to their homepage, up at the top I see search. So now, instead of having to try to figure out where things are within the page, I can just search for a specific topic. In this case, I might search computer information systems. And it will return results based on pages that are most relevant, putting the most relevant at the top, and then the least relevant as it completes the search. So web directories or subject directories are online guides to subjects or websites, usually arranged in alphabetical order. So a human editor can be involved in creating this index for a web directory. So there might be a specific web directory, say on just-in-time manufacturing, and I want to learn more about that, or I want to learn about consultants that do that. There might be a web directory out there for that information. Okay, so web directory is often a better choice than a search engine, because a search engine might give me umpteen million results if I'm searching, say, Paul Simon, and I'm going to use that as an example here in a little bit, versus if I'm using a web directory on music, I'm going to get the results for the musician and songwriter Paul Simon. Specialized search tools concentrate on specific resources. Again, so blogs, videos, audio files, you name it, that we can look at. So examples of search tools, okay, on specific resources. So directory of open access journals, or Google Books is an example. There we go. So to use a search strategy, notice steps for web surfing. So web searching, not web surfing. That's kind of like surfing. You type a string into the search box, instantiating a query. The search engine parses the strings for keywords. So if we're using, instead of just using keywords, we're using a whole string of words. It's going to find those keywords. It's going to match them in the database. The search engine arranges the likely pages, and then the results are produced. It builds a dynamic web page, if you will, with the results based on our query. Okay, so that's what that's about. Of course, that's what's happening behind the scene when you go into Google search and say, tell me about new models of golf putters, for example. So search engine results page. A lot of times when we're putting together content for the web, we want to know things like, where are these searches coming from? So for example, for this example given here, we can search by filter. We can look at times of day. So maybe there's times of days or specific times of the year that things are searched. How is it searched? An organic search tends to be someone goes out to a specific search engine and searches. But maybe they're searching through social. Maybe they're doing it direct. Maybe there's a referral search, meaning that someone had their content about my products or service on their website. We partnered with them, and thus the search comes through their website. So, of course, as soon as we have all of this analytical data as to where people are searching, what they're searching for, how my product or service or my website rates to other products and services, I can do a better job of marketing what it is I need to market. One last thing I'll mention about this before we move on is if you have a website up, you should add Google Analytics as an example. That's one of the solution tools to your website. And by doing that, Google is able to create that data through cookies, through tracking, to find out who's looking at your stuff, where they're looking at. I'm always amazed by these YouTube videos. When I go back and look at who's consuming it, I find out that my videos are consumed all over the world. And that is just absolutely amazing to think that a teacher in Bend, Oregon can essentially be teaching people all over the world. I'm just thoroughly impressed by that and amazed and definitely honored. So search engine practices list the most relevant results or hits on the first page. Now, let's be clear. What we're really going to see on the first page now, especially for Google, is ads. It's not till we scroll down that we get to what's called the native or the non-paid search results. Okay? Here's a great example. Just this morning before creating this, I searched chocolate. And if you notice what I got here was chocolate companies in my area who are advertising. I get a map of where they are. So if I need that chocolate fix from Goodies, I know I can go downtown or I can go south of town and I can get me some Goodies chocolates and ice cream. Results labeled as ad, or as we see in Google, the ad, the green ad, sponsored link from advertisers. We know those are being paid. We know we're being targeted by our search query to get those results. Each type of filter offers related features, and then of course Google displays people also search for XYZ. So that could be supporting products, supporting services, or alternatives. So as you know, with so much going on the web these days, we've got to figure out ways to refine our searches, to make sure we're searching for exactly what we're looking for. And even if we're searching exactly what we're looking for, we may come up with 10,000 results, with the top page being the one that has the most relevancy to our search after the ads, of course. Well, what this is called is we use a technique called Boolean logic and Boolean operators to do this, advanced search operators, and most browsers support these. There's also the fact that if you click on like Google and go to advanced, you don't need to put these operators in. There's a place where you can say, or search for this, not this keyword. So let me go back to my Paul Simon example. Some of you know, in the United States, there is a wonderful songwriter and performer named Paul Simon. There is also happens to be a famous politician named Paul Simon as well. So if suddenly I go out and search Paul Simon, most of the popular stuff is around the recording artist, around the musician and the artist. So my Paul Simon politician stuff that I need for my report can be buried 16 pages down. So what I can do is I can go in there and I can say, first of all, I can put the entire name in quotes, like you see here, augmented reality. It is not going to search for augmented and reality or reality. It's going to search for augmented reality together as the string indicates. Okay? Whereas if I put in augmented or reality, then I'm going to get websites that contain augmented and or contain reality. Okay, so if I put them together, I'm looking for that exact string. So if I know Paul Simon's middle name, I can put that in. Maybe that's the unique identifier that separates my search. But what I can also do is put in attributes. We can think of attributes as adjectives. So if I'm looking for Paul Simon politician, I could say Paul Simon in quotes. I can go in and say, by the way, what you don't see here is and, because the and is the default operator. Augmented and reality, okay, is what it would normally search for. So I could then say and politician, not songwriter, not musician, not Simon and Garfunkel, not this and that and the other. Okay, there's also wildcards, so placeholder for number of characters. So notice here I've taken augmented to augment, so that might return augmented and whatever other variations of the word augment we can come up with. All right, folks, so that's pretty much it. We're going to hit the last part of this in the next video, part 5. In part 5, we're going to look at use specialty search engines for specialty searches. We kind of looked at that with our blog search browser, if you will. We're going to evaluate online information, gather content for online sources, and then, of course, apply all this information utilizing literacy standards. Until then, take it easy, and I hope to see you in part 5.